I just got into creative financing with a business partner of mine. We just knocked down 2 deals. I want to bring you the details of this and how you can start getting into creative financing and real estate as well. Hey, welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. I'm Kyle Stanley, and joining us shortly will be Stratton Brown. Stratton and I have an LLC together in which we do creative financing deals. If you're not familiar with creative financing, we're going to talk all about that here on the Fearless Investor Podcast today. But Stratton has his own businesses in wholesaling. I have my own business in Airbnb and flipping. But together, we're doing these creative financing deals because we believe that it is the lowest risk way to get into real estate right now for a long-term passive investment. So that's what I'm excited to bring you today. If you want to learn more about this, make sure to watch the rest of this episode, comment on it on the YouTube channel. If you have more questions about this, let's just go ahead and engage on Instagram. My name on Instagram is @FearlessKyle, and Stratton's name on Instagram is StratDaddy with 2 T's and 2 Y's. So there you go. So let's go ahead and jump into it with Stratton and myself. All right, as I mentioned, Stratton Brown on the show with us today, and I'm excited to talk about these deals. Stratton, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, boss.
All right, cool. So guys, just so you know, as I mentioned in the intro here, Stratton and I are business partners when it comes to creative financing deals. He brings something to the table that I don't, and vice versa. So basically, he's good at finding the deals. He has all the resources to help us to be able to close the deals. I'm bringing in the financing, funding for either the project itself, if we have to rehab it, or if there's back payments, then bringing in that income. And then, of course, when it comes to any sort of rehab, I'm managing those rehabs with our team as well. So we're both bringing something special to the table to make this a good partnership. But what I want to, before diving into more about that, I want to talk about these 2 deals. So we live in Fresno. One deal is in Bakersfield, which is basically about an hour and a half away. The other one is in Lemoore, which is about 45-ish minutes away. So Stratton, kind of, if you can, just talk about the details and the numbers of these deals and how you found them.
Yeah, man. So we'll start with the one in Bakersfield. That one came from our call center that we have, Call Magicians. They cold called a lady, and then this woman just randomly called us back saying, hey, I have a house I want to sell. My mom used to live there. She moved out. It's trashed. There's some back payments, and she just wants to walk away from it. And
how much were the back payments?
I think what were we at?
I think it was like 3,500.
Yeah, like 3K something. Like the mortgage was so low. I think she was like 6 months behind, so it didn't really add up a lot.
Yeah. Mortgage on this one is, I think it was like 449. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like soup. It's really, really low.
Yeah, really low.
And she was like, I don't want anything to do with it. And she had no equity, right? What is our total loan balance? Like 120,000.
Yeah, there was almost no equity in this thing.
There was like 120,000. And so I was like, okay, yeah, maybe we may have to set up a short sale. And then I was like, why don't I just take this over sub 2? And then I was just thinking like, okay, if I take this over sub 2, I think me and you were talking about, you were interested in, you're like, yeah, bro, I'll go anywhere in the valley. And then there was like some random conversation. I was like, Kyle, I got a deal. You want to fund this?
Yeah, it happened like literally a week later.
I was like, I got a deal, man. You want to fund this? And you're like, what are the numbers? I was like, here's the numbers. Like, yeah, let's do it. And we bought it sight unseen.
Yep, exactly. So talk about the numbers a little bit more on this one. So we already talked that we had to catch them up about $3,500 on back payments. The mortgage was basically about $450 rounded up. And then we basically said that if this thing was fixed up, we think right now it'd be worth, what did we say, about 130,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now talk about, if you can, rehab numbers, and then of course what we're going to cash flow.
All right. So the biggest things that we had, right, is we had our rehab, which was, did you put it at 33?
Yeah, it was like 33 to 35, right around there.
Yeah. So 33,000 in rehab costs. And so Kyle raised all that money at an awesome percentage rate, by the way. And so we had that, we had our closing costs, we had our extra holding costs, and then we still have our equity assurance that we'll put on there as soon as we get our option fee. And equity assurance, I believe, will be like $2,000. Closing costs were another $2,000. So I'd say, we were talking about it yesterday, I'd say on average, it's looking like most of these deals, if we go in them and rehab them, we know it's going to be like $40,000, like regardless.
Yeah.
We're going to be all in. Any sub 2 we do, it's going to take us like $40,000 a pop.
Yep,
and it
absolutely.
depends on what our private money payments are. And so our private money payment is what?
So it's 8% of that. I think we had 35 on that. So you're looking at basically about $300 a month.
Right. So we're at 300. So we're pretty much at 750 a month total in monthly payments. And then we're renting, lease optioning it out at 13.
Yep. So guys, just so you understand all that, out the door, what we're doing there is we're basically making, what is that, about 550 in cash flow per month,
Yeah.
which we're going to split between the two of us. But at the same time, we are also getting a down payment. We're doing this as a lease option. So there's a few different ways that Stratton and I kind of talked about this. If we get a deal creatively subject to, we have a number of different ways that we think we can have exit strategies based on each deal. We can have, number one, we both agree that lease option seems to be the best way to go. The second way we talked about is Airbnb if it's in a good area. Third would be owner finance. And then fourth was basically just a long-term tenant. So, getting a property, guys, and the whole idea behind this is that we get properties with either no money or we raise the money to get these properties rather than like a flip, which you have to raise in Fresno right around an average would be probably 150,000 that you have to raise. We're talking about raising basically what Stratton said, about $40,000 to $45,000 and have long-term notes on this with our investors. So essentially what we're talking about here is that we have raised $35,000 to $40,000 on this. Our monthly payments to the mortgage and our investors are going to be $750, and then we're going to collect $1,300. Plus, we promoted this one as we need at least a 10% down payment if they're going to have that option. So now let's talk about how quickly this thing went. And we're recording this on, I don't want to sing until the fat lady sings, but at the same time, it's July 22nd. We might have both these deals completely locked up and closed by the time this airs tomorrow, or we might have two people backing out. Like, that's just the thing of real estate, right? But if we close both of these, let's talk about the Bakersfield deal. How'd you find the buyer for this, and what is he putting down?
Bro, I legitimately went down to Home Depot, put for sale by owner, wrote my name, wrote my phone number in a Sharpie pen, and stuck it in the front yard. It's like in front of the mailbox because our front yard is gated. So I had to like stick it in and finagle it so everybody could see the sign, and it just has my phone number, and that's how we got it. And people would probably get 2 or 3 phone calls a day. If I could go back, I would order a rent to own sign.
Okay.
And I have a Joe McCall class. It's like a lease option class that I'm a part of. And I wish I would have looked into this before. I would have put it up, and then I would have sent it to a website, and I would have sent everything into a voicemail.
I like that.
And just say, hey, like this, and have a long voicemail. Like, hey, here's the details, blah, blah, blah. Here's what you're looking into. Here's what you're going to get into. If you feel you're qualified for this, please press blank to speak to a representative, and then it'll send it to me. We don't have to do that much explaining, and then we can send them the application.
That's perfect. You and I love automation, and that's the number one way to automate right there. Just make it easy. So this buyer talked to you. You guys were going back and forth during the rehab. And what did he end up putting down?
20,000.
All right.
20,000 option fee, and we're probably going to take 5,000 of it and say like, okay, this will go towards the overall purchase price of the home, and we're going to keep the other 15 as the option fee.
Yep. It's pretty powerful, huh?
Yeah. We made money out of nothing. I'm making money legitimately out of nothing. And for not that much time, I'd say for both of us, it hasn't been super time consuming. I'd say the hardest part has been selling these things. But then again, if now I know how I'd want to set things up towards a little bit more automated, and then it's not even an issue.
Yep, absolutely. So are there any other things that you would have done differently on this deal? I felt like this one, again, knock on wood, we've got the guy that you're meeting with today to give the cashier's check to go and close this deal up. But anything differently outside of just the automation of the for sale sign?
Automation, the for sale sign, better pictures, and have all the pictures connected to a website so people can just go look at it.
Okay.
I'd have it on, we'd put it on Zillow so people can see it. And then we're looking into like flat fee companies.
Right. And
that's Marketplace sooner, like better pictures on Facebook Marketplace. And then probably VAs handling most of the communication, if you want my house opinion.
Well, and I want people to stay tuned because we're going to talk a little bit more about Facebook Marketplace too. if you didn't already see on my Instagram, go check it out. I think I posted it on Monday. What would that have been? July 20th. I'm just literally reading Facebook messages and Facebook comments from people on this next deal, which was definitely different. So let's talk about the Lamore deal because we didn't rehab this one. And we made a choice there for a specific reason not to rehab it. But before we get into that, how'd you find this one and what were the numbers on this one?
This one came from my network. Matt's acquisition guy, Chase, just reached out to me and he was like, can I sub to a VA loan? And I just texted Pace. I was like, can I sub to a VA loan? He said, yeah. So I told Chase, yeah, I'll take it. Pretty much. I was like, what are the numbers? I was like, what's the mortgage? I was like, how much rehab does it need? He's like, it probably needs like what we're anticipating. We're anticipating another 15 grand on top of what we put into it.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, okay, look at the numbers. I was like, it works for me. Like, I'll take it. Don't send it to anybody else. And so we got that before it even went out to anyone. And we paid what, $10,000 to Matt and $3,000 to the seller and like $2,000 in closing costs.
Yep. So basically we were 15,000 all in on this one. We were, like you said, we were expecting another 15,000 in rehab costs. And then you and I kind of had this like realization that, wait, we don't necessarily have to rehab it. We don't have to have a perfect type of property ready for people. We can literally show people how they can put some sweat equity into this, get it at a discount. So the loan on this one is right around, what is it? 180,000?
180.
Yeah. So the great thing I like about this deal is there's multiple exit strategies because we have a little bit of equity going into it. Because what we have as an ARV on this is 250. And literally with just some paint, carpet, some new fixtures, and maybe changing out the countertops in the kitchen, you've got a really nice flip. And, you know, maybe doing double pane windows as well. I would say that probably would be a must. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to live in this, we looked at this and said, well, the type of person that we're looking for, because it's a VA loan, because we had to wrap it, because we had to do this the right way, we have to do an owner finance. So before I get into the reason of all that, can you just explain that for a second? Why did we choose to do owner finance on this one?
We don't get, so the title transferred, but it didn't transfer the way we wanted. And I was like, well, if we're not going to get the tax write-off from owning the property, we might as well just owner finance it anyway and get a bigger down payment.
Yeah.
Is what I thought. But I understood. They're like, yeah, the title will transfer, but it's weird because we had Rochelle Jarvis, she's amazing. She handles most of this stuff for us. She reached out to all the title companies in California, had to network her ass off just to find one company who would do it for us. And they did only this transfer of title. That wasn't really a transfer of title. It was a mere wrap. And at that point, they're like, yeah, it won't be fully in your name yet. And I was like, okay, so we won't get the tax write-off for that. If we're not going to get the tax write-off, but we can still wrap it, we might as well just do that, collect a larger down payment and call it a day and still cash flow a little bit more.
Yep. And yes, completely second that with Rochelle. She's made this process. Like, I don't think we would be able to do this if it wasn't for her. No. But I would also say that part of the reason we decided owner finance, not just for the extra down payment and also due to the fact that we weren't getting tax write-offs, but because we wanted someone to have that pride of ownership and having a little sweat equity in the deal. Lease option, you never, again, it's an option, right? You lease it with the option of knowing that you could eventually own it, but owner finance, you're actually owning it from the beginning. And then basically Stratton and I are the bank to those buyers. So going back to what I was saying there is that we decided to do this in this way because we realized, hey, if we don't have to raise more money and put more time into a project, and we can find someone who maybe has that cousin that is a contractor, or maybe they've got the skills of a contractor, maybe they've put sweat equity into a home before. And, the type of buyer we were looking for, we knew was going to be a lot more specific in this one compared to the Bakersfield one. It was like, hey, nice, ready to go, move in home. And all you got to do is put down a larger down payment. You're in a tough situation. You can't go to the bank right now to get a loan. And this Bakersfield property is ready to go for you. The Lamore one, it was like, hey, we know we're going to have a more specific buyer. So we knew it was probably going to take a little bit more time. to get that. Now, what I didn't expect was all the hate comments that we got on Facebook. Holy cow. Here's the moment where I want to just take time to educate people from the buyer's standpoint of why this is actually a solid deal for them too. So to me, it was like kind of a no-brainer. If you can't get a loan from the bank right now, especially with everything that's going on, like trying to get a refinance or a loan from a bank right now, you need to have more income. You need to have more proof of funds. You have to have less debt because all these banks are scared right now due to the COVID situation of what's going to happen. So it's become, even though the rates are going down, it's becoming increasingly harder to get a loan. And so we're looking for a buyer basically that is needing to get into a home right away. They're tired of paying rent at an apartment or higher rent at a house, and they just want to own their own thing and maybe eventually be able to refinance into their name after their credit gets better. For us, of course, being the investors, we would rather them continue to pay us every month for 30 years, but they have that opportunity as well. So what other advantage do you see from the buyer's standpoint for a deal like this?
No credit checks. Like it's not nearly as intense as going through a bank either. And again, like if you've had a bankruptcy in the last 7 years, like good luck. Like we had one candidate who we thought about and we probably would have, but we had someone else come through. They're like, yeah, like we can do it if you just give us a little bit more down. Like we just want some more security.
Yeah. And did they have a foreclosure or bankruptcy, or was it both?
It was both.
Yeah.
Was both.
So yeah, there's no way that a bank is going to approve that. There's absolutely no way, especially because I think it happened in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, people talk all the time about like real estate and helping other people. This is definitely a way in which it's helping someone because they have no way of owning a home if they're going traditionally through a bank. But of course you post on Facebook Marketplace and comments start to come in and we're scamming people and we're horrible people. And it's really funny. I'm going to just direct people to my Instagram at Fearless Kyle. Go watch that IGTV video. I literally read like the majority of the comments that just made me laugh. One of them claimed that I was going to steal someone's kidney. That was pretty hilarious. But here's like from my perspective, Stratton, I think going back to this one though, the one thing that I think I would have liked to have done is put an extra $5,000 into this just to get paint and carpet. I think at the end of the day, like an extra $5,000, which would be easy to raise, or even just to use that from the profits that we get from the Bakersfield one to put into that, makes a world of a difference in marketing. It's just so funny in some of these comments, people literally think that because this property has bad carpets and bad paint, that it goes from being worth 220 down to like 160. Like it's the way that people's minds think on this, the psychology of someone seeing a decently presentable house versus one that definitely needs some work. It changes things so easily. So that's the thing that I think I would probably change in moving forward on some of these ones that we're saying, hey, people can live in it, but it's not necessarily like a beautiful home. I would love to just be able to take a few grand, almost treating it like a wholesale and just make a few different changes and make it a little bit more presentable.
Yeah, and I mean, but the whole Facebook Marketplace thing, like you'll get eaten alive. I think we should edit the comments because I posted the one we were looking at in Fresno. Because we had that on a contract, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna start marketing this for tenants beforehand. And I put it on Facebook Marketplace, and I ran into the same shit. Where one woman was like, "You're a scammer," and then she went and liked all my pictures on Facebook. I was like, and I sent her a message like, "You have a problem here?" And then she never messaged me back. Like just stuff like that. I think that would go through a world, like it'd help a lot marketing wise. My only other thing is like I'm talking to people and like how you said you talk to people, like they just buy it and it's over. Like they just throw it back on and they do lease option rent to own. And then even with the rent to own for us, more times than not, these people are going to take pride of ownership because like they know they're going to buy the house. And so they're going to do a lot of stuff to it.
Yeah.
Marketing wise though, I feel like it is really hard. With our house, I would for sure get professional pictures taken. If anything, I'll pay for some new light bulbs.
Yeah.
Pay for some new light bulbs and maybe paint and carpet or just get the carpets cleaned. And then I just think about how can I get this done without doing anything? You know, like how can we get a better system in place? I would probably have a runner do the open houses.
Yep.
Um, email the candidates. So we'd find up a way to do that. And again, I'd have virtual assistants pretty much communicating with them most of the time and accepting offers and everything else.
Yeah, I think, I don't know how many calls you got on the Bakersfield one, but just in terms of Facebook messages on the Lemoore one, I counted and it was like close to 200 different people. And we're talking maybe 4 of them were serious candidates, and so that's a lot of time wasted. Of course, like we talked about, the benefit of these is we're not really starting in any sort of hole. We're starting with other people's money or with no money at all. So as soon as we have someone in there, we've profited from the down payment and we're profiting monthly from the payments. I think though that, yeah, like in terms of scaling this, what we really want to do is we want to automate that as much as possible. The thing that we would have to really do in regards to like a runner is educate them enough to be able to handle some of the questions that, like, even me, I'm still like sitting there taking questions. And I'm like, wow, that's like a Rochelle question. I have no idea what the answer to that is, or wow, that's like something I didn't even think about. And so I think we've got to have, someone who can deal with people as well. They're not just there to open a door and let them walk through. They've got to be able to actually have a constructive and professional conversation with people that are asking legitimate questions about the numbers. Some of the things that came up too that I just didn't really even think about is people asking, okay, so of that $1,500 a month, is taxes and insurance included? What other questions did you get that you were just like, wow, I didn't really even think about that?
Is taxes and insurance included? I knew insurance wouldn't be. Taxes are on our mortgage payment anyways. And so I was like, whatever. No, you don't have to pay the taxes. We'll pay the property taxes.
Yep.
That one, the prepayment penalty.
Yes.
So like people talking about a prepayment, and I didn't even think about it. I'm glad we put the clause in, because if like they have it for a year, then they just refinance this. I'm pissed.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm in this to make money as a rental, right? And
right.
So if I have a rental, and then they automatically refinance it a year afterwards,
there was that would have just flipped it or wholesaled it.
Exactly. I would have just flipped it or wholesaled it and made more money. And so we put in a prepayment penalty of $25,000 before 7 years in the Lemoore contract. And I think it goes down like $3,000 a year after that.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
And so that one was good. What else would I want to do better? I mean, we buy these things as is. And so there's nothing else I'd really want to do on that. Find some way just to make it, that drive to Bakersfield is intense. Like driving down there today to get all that done.
Yeah.
How are we going to, because I'm looking at another property that we're looking at today. How are we going to systematize that better to where, again, like we're not going out to properties to see stuff.
Yeah. Well, and this is any new business, right? I talk about all the time, you got to do it yourself. You got to master it. Then you got to automate it and then you can scale it. And right now, like, I don't think there's any way with the systems that we have in place that we could even do like 4 properties at a time. That sounds crazy. I mean, just having this one Lemoore one plus the distance in which you have to go for Bakersfield feels like a large part-time job. It doesn't feel like a full-time job necessarily, but it definitely feels like it's eating up a lot of time. I'm trying to we didn't even talk about the numbers of Lemoore. So again, the whole ARV that we believe it is at is 250, but since we were basically going to be selling it at a TLC kind of markdown price, we said 220 to the buyer. Originally we were marketing for a $25,000 down payment with $1,595 payments, rounded up $1,600 a month. Our mortgage, I think, is 1023, right around there. Yeah. So essentially you're looking at just under $600 of cash flow. We ended up finding a solid buyer. We did a background check. We did pay stubs. We did all that, and they passed. And the only way for them to really make it work was at $1,500. So we knocked down $100 for them. So basically, we're going to be cash flowing just under $500 per month on this one, and we're getting that $25,000 down payment. which is great because now you talk about $20,000 for the Bakersfield one, 25 for this one. That's $45,000 in which we can figure out what we want to do with that. Do we want to put it in our pocket? Do we want to pay off our lender a little bit more? Do we want to use that to put more money into the next one? So, I mean, I think we're using it kind of as a combination right now, and also just kind of feeding the bank account to have some extra money in there. But I love the fact that this really is, like, to me, the ultimate type of deal, because essentially the majority of these deals are going to have three different payoffs. We're going to get the down payment, we're going to have the monthly payments, and then if as a lease option we're ever selling this to the person, then basically going through the bank or even owner finance with them purchasing it, then we're actually getting the payoff at the end. And
Yep.
that's a really freaking beautiful thing. So anything else you want to say about that?
No, I mean, it is awesome. I'm really excited to see what we could do sub to Airbnb if we can get some really nice ones, and then cash flow and use that strategy. There's just a lot of different strategies. Like, we can take one down and we can exit in any way we want. Honestly,
Yep.
That's what I like about this.
Yeah, I think too, even though we're getting these deals that are low equity for the majority, like I think the VA one is probably going to be the unique one. I think most of them are going to be like that Bakersfield property where it's like, hey, not only do we have little or no equity, but we're actually upside down on this property. And so for that reason, it's like, okay, in my narrow mind before of just like either a flip or if it's in really good condition, looking at it as an Airbnb, now I get to say, well, that's okay, because now I can look at this as a purchase in which we're just taking over a mortgage rather than actually purchasing it and maybe fixing up a few things, but instantly cash flowing with a nice little down payment, as long as we're doing either lease option or owner finance. And that's like that. I think that's what I love about real estate, man. It's just every day you're learning some new strategy, some new extra strategy that like you can easily get the shiny object syndrome. But to me, right now, this is the exit strategy to be going after because of everything, all the uncertainty that's going on right now. Yeah, sure, real estate prices are going up in the Central Valley, but how long is that going to keep on going? I think there's a lot of fear of like, if I go and start a flip right now, is the market going to go down 10% by the time I go to sell it? So I just think for me personally, as long as we automate the majority of what we're doing to take the stress and the annoyances out of it, this becomes the best exit strategy, and the most fun to see scale.
Yeah, I mean, you get wholesale fees for a down payment or whatever, right? Like, it's a down payment, but still, okay, it knocks down the purchase price a little bit, but that's still 25 grand up front. That's really nice. Another 20 grand, that's really high for an option fee. Like, we kind of lucked out on that one, but still another 20 grand. So we get 45 grand. Wholesalers would kill for two 20 grand deals, like back to back.
Yeah. What's been your average wholesale fee that you usually get, just
We're
to
like
put in
15 to
perspective?
20, like 15 to 20, and I like negotiate for 20. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I mean, guys, what we're talking about is low risk with maybe an even higher payoff in regards to comparing it to wholesaling. Plus, you're going to get the cash flow. Plus, if you are lease option, you have the tax advantages. There's just so much to love about this. Is there anything else that people need to know about these deals, about this exit strategy before we kind of log off here?
Don't just go out there and do it. Get a mentor.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah.
Without a doubt, like, whether it's Pace or the people it is a lot more than just like wholesaling a property. I'll tell you that much.
Yep.
Like, the amount of documentation we had to go through, the amount of moving parts that are involved in every transaction, and each transaction is two-parted, right? We have the first part, and then we have to sell it again.
Yep.
And then full marketing. Like, get a mentor just to show you the process and like have you answer like these crazy questions about whatever stuff pops up.
And I'm going to take it one step further. It's going to scare people, but it's going to scare them into getting a mentor. Get a mentor so you can stay out of jail. Like, this is a legitimate exit strategy, but if you don't have the right documentation, or if you do something even as simple as, instead of a 30-year loan, a 25-year loan, like you can actually get thrown in jail. So you need to have someone next to you, not only showing you how to not make mistakes, to accelerate, to make more money, but you need to do it because it's the right legal thing to do as well. So yeah, 100%, 100% on that. Stratton, you've got, I want to take like a couple minutes here. You've got a new business as well with Call Magicians. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, man. We're a VA call center. We do primarily cold callers and leads managers for your real estate business. And that's so our leads managers are pretty much the first point of contact in your business, right? So they talk to all your leads, handle all your follow-up for you, build rapport. Then the cold callers are just sifting through all your big lists of data, cold calling and sending your leads to your leads manager. And then your leads manager talks to them. Anybody who's qualified, they get sent to you after they talk to the leads manager. And that, the biggest thing is, again, like you want to automate your business and have it run for you. You can't just waste your time talking to people because cold callers are just going to send over anybody who says yes.
Yep.
And again, you have, so it's a funnel, then another funnel, then another funnel. These are the only people you should be talking to. Up here and up here, your system should take care of. And so what we're trying to do is help people scale like affordably and comfortably.
What would be a average hourly cost for your VAs?
They're between $8 and $13 an hour.
Okay. So guys, if you have annoyances like what Strat and I were just talking about, taking calls from sellers, not having pre-qualified sellers getting on the phone with you, just anything at all that you feel like, man, if I had this off my plate and I had more time to focus on the best lists to get, for great sellers, for high equity, low equity, whatever type of list you need, whatever you need in order to scale your business, if that time is holding you back, then a VA is absolutely necessary. I don't think there's any smart real estate investor today that isn't using some sort of assistant or virtual assistant. So if you're not doing that, or if you need more of that, Stratton's got an awesome group of people. He's got an awesome system that he teaches them. And you can get that link right on our show notes. We're going to put that in the show notes. Stay tuned to the end here to hear what that link is. But man, I'm excited about these two deals. This definitely gives me the confidence to continue to go out and scale this now. I think there's that, initial fear of, hey, this almost sounds too good to be true. Can we really make this happen? And now that we've seen that we can really make this happen, we can go out and do it again and again. So any last words about these deals?
My last words for everything: don't give up. If you're watching this, more than likely you're newer and you're thinking about getting into it, just do it, man. Just hop into it. I mean, be prepared to go broke, mitigate some risk, but you got to hop into it. I was talking to a guy in our office who was like, I was making $75,000 a year being an accountant, and I was waiting for $4,000 a month direct deposit. He's like, I can't believe I did that. I jumped into real estate, and now I have way more money in the bank than I ever did before.
That's crazy.
75 grand a year is a lot.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yeah. For most people, it really is. That's where I was before real estate. Now it doesn't seem like nearly enough to be able to live on. So it's amazing how your perspective changes. Well, Stratton, thanks so much for being on, man. And guys, creative financing, another way to go out there and conquer the world of investing. See you next time. All right. These show notes are going to be at fearlesskyle.com/Stratton and Kyle. That's Stratton, STRATTON and Kyle. And that one right there, if you want to learn more about how we're doing these deals, again, just connect with us on Instagram. You can ask us questions anytime. Make sure you're already subscribed to our YouTube channel and our podcast to continue to get all this content so we can continue to feed your mind and help you to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you next time.